Hello everybody, this is Tiffany Almeida with Pretty in Paper Crafts, and I am going on today to teach you how to make these two projects using the Best Catch stamp set and our Stampin' Blends. So this is the Best Catch stamp set, and it is a very fun masculine set, and I actually enjoyed coloring with it immensely. So I'm going to show you how I made these two projects today. The colors that we'll be using for this month's Blends Club are our light and dark Bermuda Bay. And I have to pull them out over here. I have my new stand that they're in. Let's see. This is our light and dark Daffodil Delight. We have our light and dark Crumb Cake here, which is a fabulous color. I use this one all the time. And then we have our light and dark Old Olive, which I think is this one. It's kind of hard to tell until you pull them out. Yep, light and dark Old Olive. Okay, so these are the four colors that we're using to create these projects. So we're gonna actually start with our card first, and I'm gonna show you how to do this awesome sunset. This guy is fly fishing, and he has a beautiful sunset he's fishing with. So I'm going to show you that. This stamp set also has a set of framelits, which are amazing. I absolutely love these. It cuts out the big fish. It cuts out even the fly fisherman, and it has some really other great fish and hooks and things, a fishing hat and a basket, all these wonderful framelits that it will cut out. And this set is actually carrying over into the new catalog, which I'm really excited about, so we'll continue to get to create with this one. The other thing I want to show you before I get started with the project is that I'm going to include in your kit this month the Stampin' Blend Marker tracker. And this form, you can see I just filled it out really quickly, is a way to mark off all of the blends colors that you have. And so this just shows me, once I went through the whole thing and colored it out, realized I had all the blends markers out of the catalog. And I'm really excited to say that the new catalog is going to have new blends colors, so I'll be able to add to that, so that'll be really exciting. But for now, you'll get this included with your last Blends Club. And those of you that have been participating in Blends Club for the last 6 months, you will also be getting your gift from me, the Darling Label Punch Box. So I'm really excited for that. I'll be sending those to you in the mail. All right, so let's go ahead and get started creating this beautiful card. Everything inside of your envelope is what you'll need to put the card together. You have your cardstock base, and we're going to do that horizontally here. You also have a piece of Bermuda Bay that I cut down to 4 inches by 5 1/4, and then I took my oval framelit and I cut out a center of the oval. And then I also have a piece of Whisper White. This piece of Whisper White is 3 3/4 by 5 inches, and it's going to fit within the back of our Bermuda Bay piece just perfectly. I also have this circle here. You guys might be wondering what this circle is for, but we're actually going to do some masking, and we're going to color the sunset. So I'm going to show you how we're going to use this. And then we have 2 of these little crumb cake fish. They are from the framelits. They cut out the little fish. There's 2 different size fish. There's a small fish and a big fish, so you'll have 1 of each of those. Okay, and so what we're going to do is we're going to start creating our sunset. So I have my piece of cardstock, my Whisper White cardstock, and we are going to start with the water. And I always suggest starting with your light color first and then working towards your dark. So I have my light Bermuda Bay. I'm going to use my brush tip because, again, I'm going to be doing water. And actually, hold that thought, I actually want to stamp my fisherman first. He's going to help me decide where the water ends and where the sun begins, okay? So let's actually do that first. Just inking him up with Memento Black ink. Just get him really good. Now the texture of the stamp actually isn't a very clear, dark image. If you can see, our fisherman, he's kind of fuzzy looking, a little staticky, and that is the stamp. It's not your ink that you're not inking it enough, it's just the style of the stamp. So we're just gonna stamp our little fisherman in the center. What I try to focus on is keeping his feet level. That's kind of the guide. So I want his feet level with the paper. So I'm just gonna put him right about here. trying to get him into the center of the paper, okay? Because that's going to be really important when we put our Bermuda Bay piece down, because we want him and the fly fishing to be visible. And then kind of in the center is going to be our sunset. So we'll set this aside. We're all done with the stamping. Now we get to start coloring, and just want to, you know, make sure that the ink is fairly dry. It won't smear too badly. The other thing that you can do, and I recommend if you care about straight lines, is using a straight edge. Now you can use a piece of cardstock or any straight edge that you want, but to use that to kind of keep your water separate from your sky if you want a really straight line. So right about his forearm is where I decided that that was going to be about half of that was going to be where the water ended. Okay, so I'm going to go right about here, and I'm just going to draw this line so that I have a little guide. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and just shade in the rest of the water. Again, I'm using just the light. This is just the light base. And we're just going to color this in. And you don't have to color him. You can color around him, and then you can go back over in black and make him darker if you wanted. I did draw the line straight through his body, and if that bothers you, you can go back and color him in darker if you prefer. Okay, so we've got the water kind of going. Now I want to bring this picture in so you can kind of see what it is we're going to do here. We are going to take our darker color and we are going to do some shading. Always use the brush tip for the water, and you can start blending in darker portions of the water. And you can, you know, assume that maybe closer to, you know, the farther away the water is, the darker. And you can just kind of start blending and getting different levels of the water. Okay, because you know, waves and things are all different. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to cover where I would like my sun to be. Okay, and I am going to take my dark Daffodil Delight and I'm going to shade around that sun, or what I'm going to perceive to be the sun. So I am just going like this. This is my mask. I'm just holding it in place with my finger, and I do want to color in the water. Okay, this is just going to create a border around the sun. Okay, and then we can take where the sun is going to be touching the water, and we can kind of shade that in with yellow. And we're just mixing the Bermuda Bay with the yellow blends. Okay, now we can take our light and fill in the sun with the light Daffodil Delight and blend this darker portion so that it's not so dark. Okay, and you can even put some in the water, kind of soften up the edges a little bit of the sun. Okay, so see how we're just blending these colors? Because the sun is going to reflect off that water a little bit. So now we can color in our sunset here. And you don't have to go to the edges, but you can, because remember the edges are going to be covered by the cardstock, the Bermuda Bay. So once you've gotten your light, you're going to take your dark and you're going to start blending the dark. You know, you can make it as dark or as light as you want. And I am just going to go around my sun, and I just kind of want to blend the sunset a little bit more. And you're going to have to just put a lot of ink. You want it to be nice and wet to blend these colors, okay? And you can see that my sun in my first one was a lot lighter than this one. And that's for two reasons specifically. The first reason is that when I went to create this project, my light Daffodil Delight was almost dead. And there was hardly any ink in it. So one of the things you can do is take your color lifter if you have the color lifter, and you can color in the center of your sun to pick up some of that color and push that color away and make your sun a little bit lighter. So that is one thing that you can do. You can even go into your water a little bit and just push that color away. Okay, so now I'm going to take my light blend again, and I'm going to continue working on the sunset, just around my sun, coloring in the sky. And that's the amazing thing about blends, is that they just make the scene so pretty, right? Just blending everything so beautifully. All right, let's go ahead and work on our water just a little bit more. Let's take in some of our light Bermuda Bay, and let's just kind of work our water a little bit. You know, I'm gonna work around him and work this yellow out a little bit more. And again, it's just a blending game. You're just gonna keep mixing. You know, you can't necessarily go lighter unless you're using the color lifter, so that's why I always start with light, and you can build in the dark. And then if you don't like the dark, you can blend it back in with the light and soften it up a bit. So you can see I've kind of got this water look to it. It's starting to kind of form that kind of sunset. Okay, so once you're happy with that, the other thing that I like to do is, I don't know if you can see that in my card here, but I have got some fun fun glitter. And I don't know, again, if you can see it or not, but there's some shimmer and shine to this card. And I'm going to do this effect, I'm going to do Wink of Stella. And so what I wanted, oh, there we go. What I wanted was my sun to shine. I wanted my sun to sparkle, and I wanted this water to sparkle, because when the sun is bouncing off the water, it is very magical, right? And very shiny. Okay, so I'm just putting some Wink of Stella on the water, and then again, like I did it on the sun. Okay, so there is our sunset. I'll bring this up closer so you can get a closer look. But that is it. That's it. That's all it took to make this beautiful sunset and make the water just sparkle and shimmer. And then we're just going to put our project together. Now, the one thing that I did that I think I want to try, and this is a trial and error thing, you know how I always like to do things live, is I'm going to try and shade the fish with the crumb cake. Just see how it looks to kind of give the fish kind of a rough edge, like an outline. I don't know. Just coloring the edge of the fish, and it might look horrendous, and we might not want to do this, but you could play with your blends. You can color your fish. So there's that outline. Not too fond of it, but maybe I'll color it. Now remember, this is crumb cake. I'm like coloring crumb cake on crumb cake. This is just making my fish darker. Not necessary, but now I have a little bit of a darker fish. I'm gonna go ahead and make the other one match. So my first project has the regular fish. This one's going to have a little bit of a darker fish. You can see it's a bit darker. So you can play with the blends and, you know, make all kinds of fun things happen with your picture. All right, so here is our finished project. We're going to frame it just like this, and we have to glue to the bottom. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna glue this down to my cardstock base. I'm just going to glue it with some runner. So let me grab my runner. And glue this down. And then what I wanna do with the waves, the Bermuda Bay, is I actually want to put it up on dimensionals, so it kind of looks like a frame that's popped up. So I'm going to put dimensionals on the back of this. Grab my package of dimensionals and just put dimensionals on the back to support the frame. Now, it doesn't matter which side of the waves that you want to use. I'm actually using the not the indented side, but the bumpy side as my top part, but you could do it on the indented side if you like that look better. It's completely up to you. Just peeling the backings off of our dimensionals. Did I get them all? I think I got them all. Okay, so then we can put our frame on, and again we're going to center around our fisherman. Try to get it as even as possible. Okay, and then we have our fish. So we've got one fish down here and one fish up here. You can see once the ink is dried, it's starting to fade a little bit. I want to see if maybe I can color out a little bit more of the crumb cake on this guy because he's pretty dark. Let's see. Because I made his little ends dark. Okay. All right, so I'm going to leave that fish alone. Probably making it a lot worse than I need to. And then I'm going to just put some liquid glue down on the backs of our little fish. Whoa, that was a lot of glue. And we are going to put our little fish on our frame. Like so. And that's it for this beautiful sunset. What a stunning card. It doesn't really take a lot of work, and it's kind of a really cool technique, especially when we masked off that area to create that sunset. So you can see here I did I have a darker fish and I have the lighter fish, but these cards, and you can see the sunsets are a little bit different. So every time you do this, it's going to be a little different, but it's kind of fun to play and see, you know, what you can come up with. You can even color in some of your fishermen. So I'm taking the dark crumb cake and I'm coloring in his backpack and his hat. So you can even color part of him, even his boots. So you can have fun with that and color in different sections. So there is the card. All right, so let me show you how to make our sweet little cup. That is the next project. I'll bring it back out so you can see it. We have this beautiful fish, and then we have this really fun little basket that you can put a little treat inside, and it looks like a little bait basket, right? So all of the pieces you need are in your bag. So I have this little bag here. Now be really careful because somewhere inside your bag are these two little metallic pearls. So they're tiny and they're hard to see, and so just be really careful when you're pulling things out, but they are in there. Okay, so let's take these out, and come on, little tiny pearls. Come on out. Okay, there we go. So the first thing we can do is we can glue down our little old olive center here, this circle. This is using the layering stitch circles. Not stitch, sorry, layering circles, framelits. And we're just gonna glue that down to the center. Okay, and let's go ahead and glue. So you have this basket weave that I've embossed for you. There is a template that I printed off, and I have attached it to the email that I sent you the video with, and it's also in the description of my video. But this is a template that fits the wrap around your cup. This is something I got off of Stampin' Up, and I traced it and cut out the crumb cake, and then I embossed it with the basket weave embossing folder so it has that print. And then we're going to glue it down around our cup, okay? So I'm actually going to use tear and tape for this because tear and tape holds really, really well, and I don't want to sit and have to hold the Tombow liquid glue. So we're going to get our tear and tape and just put a strip at both ends, and then a strip across the bottom and the top. And you can kind of bend the tape a little bit as you work your way around. Okay, so if we take off the backing, okay, so we're gonna do, we're gonna kind of line up the seam of the cup with the seam of the wrap, and just slowly but surely work your way around. And again, it's just gonna stick down. So, and with tear and tape, you don't really have much room to kind of wiggle around, so hopefully you're being really precise about where you're putting it. So it's going to just rub that glue onto that cup so it holds real well, okay? The other thing we have is our little strip here. Take your bone folder and put a little curl in the center. It doesn't need to be a lot. I mean, I put hardly any pressure when I curled that. I kept the ends straight, and you're going to want to just put adhesive across the two sides. And what I found worked best for this was again, that tear and tape. I felt like it was nice and strong. And so you're just going to put a little strip on one side and then a little strip across on the other side. Okay, and then peel off the backing. And I'm doing this because I don't want to lose those little pearls, so let's put them on the handles and be done with it, because you know I'll get going and I'll lose those pearls. All right, so we have glued our handle on each side, and then these little pearls are going to go on just like here as like a little center, like a little hinge. Oops. And I'm going to find my tool to pick this up. I don't want it to stick to the paper. Now it's sticking to me. Come on, putty. Okay, so now we can stick this down right there and pick this up. Whoops. These little pearls are gonna be fun. There we go. This little putty tool is very handy. I'm gonna put that in the center there. Okay, so there's that. Now let's do the stamping and we'll color our fish. That's the fun part. And then we'll put on the rest of this. Okay, so our fish, I'm gonna get the ink out, is this beautiful fish, this beautiful salmon. Salmon, I think, or a trout, I don't know. You have to be a fisherman to know, I guess. And we're just going to stamp this image. It will fit perfectly in this circle. Okay, look at that. He fits perfectly in the circle. The other thing we're gonna do now that we have the ink out is, do you guys recognize this little label? Guess what label that is? It's the Darling Label Punch from the Darling Label Punch Box. This is the one you got as a gift for joining my Blends Club for all 6 months. So very, very cool. I kind of thought that was neat to incorporate it in the last month because you guys now own it, which is exciting. Okay, so I stamped the sentiment, "It's your day," right in the center of that little punch. I just punched it out of Whisper White cardstock. It's your day. All right, so let's go ahead and do our coloring. Now, I'm gonna tell you this, it's gonna take some practice to get your fish the way you want it. It took me a lot of time to get it the way I wanted it. I practiced doing different colors, mixing different colors, starting with different colors. And what I found is that giving it a nice solid base in a light color, like light old olive, is the best way to go. And then you can add layers of other color. So I just gave him a nice layer, and I'm using the brush tip. But there is a lot of little details, so if you want to use the fine tip so you don't go out of the lines, that is probably a smart choice. Okay, so we're just going to give him this base coat, and we're actually going to do a lot of little layers of color to give him all of the different tones that he has going on. Okay, so first though, we're going to do this old olive base, just a light old olive base. Okay, the next thing I want to do is I want to put it in some yellow. So I'm going to put in some yellow kind of in the center and a little bit underneath his belly. So I'm just going to give him a little bit of color there and a little bit of color here, bring it down and around. Okay, I'm going to take my dark crumb cake and I'm going to border across the top of him in a darker shade. And don't worry if it looks too dark, because we can blend it with our other colors once we are finished. So I'm putting a crumb cake border there. We're going to border underneath his eye, around his mouth, and we're going to go underneath his chin here. So let's kind of just follow his lines and kind of give him this outline as we go. Woo, I went way out of the lines there. Good thing I have a color corrector or a color lifter. So I'm just putting a little bit of brown. Now I'm going to stop right there, and while it's wet, I am going to get my color lifter out and I'm going to push that color back in, because I really went out of the lines there with his tail and on his back a little bit. So just pushing that color back inside the lines. Okay, so there. All right, let's bring in some Bermuda Bay. So let's take our fine tip Bermuda Bay and let's trace along some of these other lines. So we've got the top of the eye here and the top of his fish scales up here. And let's do one underneath his chin. Okay, and let's do inside of his little fin here. Let's definitely get down in here with his fins. And again, don't worry if it's too dark, we will blend those edges. And let's do some, so I did a little bit of blue up here. And I think that's good. All right, so let's take some light crumb cake and let's bring some color, some browns, and kind of blend things in a little bit. Let's blend that Daffodil Delight, the Bermuda Bay. Just tone that down a little bit with the crumb cake. It's kind of our earthy tone. We'll tone that down. Okay. You can color your fish any color you want. Fish are, I feel like, a rainbow of colors sometimes, and they reflect a lot of different colors. So you can keep going and keep mixing these colors until you are happy with it. But that is kind of the process that I took. Just kind of use the light crumb cake to kind of blend those colors together. Again, I started with the base of Old Olive, and then I brought in some of that Bermuda Bay. I think I'm going to take my dark crumb cake and I'm going to work the bottom tail here a little bit more and work these fins, because I feel like there's a lot of blue in the fins. So I'm going to tone that down a little bit. And again, I went outside the lines. So I'm going to do some color lifter right there. And sometimes with the color lifter, you can see I've gone over some spots a couple times. It takes a little bit more than 1 or 2 passes. You know, I pass it over, I let it sit, do its thing, and then I'll pass it over again. And that kind of just helps make sure I've lifted up all the color that I want. So we're just going to keep adding color. I'm just taking some crumb cake and just kind of putting some more brown on the scales. I'm going to play with the fin a little bit here. And again, you can use that Old Olive, the light Old Olive, to kind of blend things down again. Okay, I think I'm going to leave him alone before I get it too muddy. But you get the idea, and the more you play with him, the more fun it will be, and the more striking of colors he can get. And I keep pulling off the cap. And then you can also put some glitter in his fins to make him pop, his scales on his fins. So you can do that as well. All right, so now it's just the fun part. Now we get to assemble our little project here. We're going to put some dimensionals on the back of our fish. So just pop about 3 dimensionals on the back, and we're going to put that on our Bermuda Bay scallop circle. This Whisper White circle that we use to color our fish is actually a 2 1/4 inch punch. So then I cut out the layering circle from the framelits, and the scallop circle I should say. And then I also cut out an old olive layering circle for the larger circle in the bucket. So we're just going to center this and put that on there. And then we have our little label, which is going to go in the front of our grass. So our grass is just going to peek out the top like that. So we can put adhesive on the back of our label like so. Put that behind our label. We can also glue our little fish hook. This is cut out of the gold glimmer paper, and I'm actually going to use a glue dot to glue this down. Glue dots are nice and sticky, and I feel like they hold the foil paper down really well. So I just got a glue dot in the back of that, and I'm just going to put it in the corner here. And then what I did was I did put this down on the side of the basket with dimensionals, but I actually doubled up the dimensionals because the lid will get in the way of your grass. So if you put it on, stack it on 2 dimensionals, it will be forward enough that it won't interfere with the lid. So you're like, what the heck do you mean by that? So I'm putting a layer of dimensionals behind the grass. And then what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to take another set of dimensionals and put that on top of the dimensionals I just glued. So one there and one there. And that's what I mean by doubling up on dimensionals, is now I've stacked them so that they're thicker. And then I can stick this to the front of my project. Like so. And so then you can see the grass is still hitting the lid, but it has enough room that the lid can get behind it and it won't interfere with the grass. See? And then you have this cute little basket that's great for any fisherman in your life, as a cute little birthday gift or a thank you gift or a Father's Day gift. And so I just hope you have had an amazing time making these projects, learning how to play with the blends. Hopefully you have learned a technique or two in there that's going to help you keep on playing with these blends and getting more and more confident with them. And thank you so much, you guys, for joining me for this awesome technique series. It was a blast, and I can't wait to play with other techniques in the future. If you have any questions, as always, you know I'm here. And thank you guys so much. Have an amazing day. Bye-bye.